tired of fighting. Boxing has no place in my heart anymore.
What's good, kings and queens? I hope everyone's week and month is starting out well. This week's video is on when boxers go out sad. So pretty much unfortunate events that led to a fighter's retirement or not getting the W in the retirement fight. With that being said, let's start the video. After Judah's 12-round defeat against Paulie Malignaggi in the Battle of Brooklyn in 2013, Judah would take a hiatus from the ring and take time with his family, furthering his career in the medical field, getting his certification, becoming a nurse, where he was treating dementia and Alzheimer's disease patients. Judah would come back in 2017 and go 2-0. In 2019, he was set up to face hard-punching prospect Cletus Selden for the vacant North American regional title. Looking good in spurts, Zab just didn't have the strength and the youthful energy to keep Cletus off of him, who was outworking and punching him round by round.
Look at that body work. Now, was that they stepped on each other's feet, or did he get hit with a shot?
In the 11th round, the ref did not like what he was seeing, and he put a stop to the fight, despite Judah's relentless protests. What would happen would scare the entire boxing scene. News came out that Judah had passed away. Then, he was in a coma. According to the official reports, he was submitted to the hospital where there was some bleeding from the brain. He was treated, cleared, and released the following week from the hospital. Erik Morales caught the whole world off guard when he turned back the clock against Marcos Maidana with impaired vision and just fell short completing the upset in the final quarter of their fight.
All of a sudden, Maidana has found the second win. Look at him take Morales' hard shots. Erik Morales, unbelievable.
With many eyes on his next move, his performance that night granted him one last title shot, which was against undefeated contender Pablo Cesar Cano for the vacant WBC title, and Morales would come up victorious, stopping Cano.
Rudy Perez asks Kenny Bayless to stop the fight. It's a good call.
In Morales' first defense, he would fight Danny Garcia. The fight was incredibly close, and by the time the open scores would come in and reveal the typical Texas officiating controversy, the fight could go either way. Once the scorecards was revealed, Morales' trainer was absolutely disgusted by them and urged Morales to pick up the offense and go for the knockout.
We're losing the damn fight. All the rounds. They gave him all the rounds. Only round one judge is giving you. All the rounds are lost. This son of a bitch, you gotta finish him. Even if you finish the fight, they're gonna give it if you're winning. The judges are gonna give it to him. To win by the judges, you see you can win the fight, but the judges, this is here, the judges are giving it to him.
Despite Morales beginning to have more success and really having a big round against Danny, he left himself open and Danny cracked him with his signature shot, leveling Morales and completely disrupting the momentum in the fight.
Right hand shot by Morales. Now Morales is trying to scrape out wins, fighting above his normal weight at 140. Good body shot by Erik Morales. Good rally in this round.
Garcia virtue.
Otherwise, Danny Garcia and not to bother to try to make the 140-pound weight.
If not for the terrible judging to where the judges somehow had Morales losing every round, it may have changed quite a bit how Morales approached Danny later in the fight.
Garcia's nose has been swelling, and now Morales has basically popped it open.
And Garcia keeps his head in one spot with his puncher, which makes it.
Oh! Down goes Erik Morales!
Due to the controversy, Morales was given a rematch later that year after Garcia had upsetted Mir Khan in their unification. This was for the WBC, WBA, and Ring Magazine titles. Morales nowhere near resembled the fighter that turned back the clock a year earlier. He was flat-footed, lacked coordination and snap in his punches, and was a sitting duck for anything Danny threw. Danny would knock Morales into retirement in the 4th round.
Real quick, Oscar, Hatton wants to fight Mayweather again, but I think you got first dibs on Floyd, don't you?
Well, we're discussing it, and I can guarantee you one thing right now. I will beat him. I will.
Will you guarantee when you're going to fight him?
Well, the date is not set in stone yet. There's nothing signed, but with Floyd Sr. on my corner, I will get him.
After a failed attempt to get a rematch with Floyd for the September 2008 slot, lightweight champion and newly crowned pound-for-pound king Manny Pacquiao was chosen to be Oscar's opponent. Oscar had underwent an experimental diet to make welterweight in this fight. Despite it, Oscar was completely sapped and Manny was way too fast and strong for the drained Oscar. Oscar will retire from his corner in between rounds, resulting in a TKO victory for Manny, spawning a new superstar in the sport of boxing's glamour division. Bernard Hopkins had defied the odds and kept on fighting at a world-class level for many years, well into his 40s. Hopkins would defeat WBA champion Bebut Shumanov in their unification at 49 years of age. After boxing's Cold War had ended and possibly a failed attempt to fight Adonis Stevenson,
we are with Showtime until I end my career, and whatever big fight it is, I want to be the undisputed lightweight champion of the world before 50.
And
Stevenson, I'm coming to Canada. I'm getting my papers together.
one more thought here. One more thought. Hold on.
Golden Boy Promotions had moved back to HBO and restored their relations with them, and Hopkins went on to fight Sergey Kovalev. The moments Hopkins had
requires a kind of power that he hasn't often shown. Bernard's hitting it here. Light heavyweight's on the way up. Oh! Kovalev is hurt.
Yeah, you hurt. I told you that's what Bernard was looking for.
buried in the depths by what Sergey did to Hopkins, dropping him for the first time in God knows how long and scoring pretty much a shutout in the scorecards. At this advanced age in Hopkins' career, the worst thing that he can do in this situation is take too long of a break. Hopkins was out of the ring for 2 years before he got to fight in what would be his retirement fight against hard-punching contender Joe Smith Jr. Joe had came off a huge upset victory, knocking out Andres Fonfara prior to this fight. That was supposed to have been a setup fight for Fonfara to fight Stevenson in a rematch. Out the gate, Hopkins did not look good. He did not look sharp, didn't have the strength nor the power that would keep his opponents honest. Despite cracking through Smith's defense numerous times, the power was just not there, and Smith did not once respect it. Smith would knock Hopkins out of the ring. Hopkins would receive a 20 count despite someone touching Hopkins, which should immediately nullify the count and make it an automatic loss. But that wouldn't matter as Hopkins injured his shoulder and could not make the 20 count, resulting in a knockout loss. After losing out on a major HBO deal worth $80 million if he were to beat Danny Williams to end his contract with Showtime, Tyson at this point, his body was broken and mentally he just wasn't there. He had just came off tearing a ligament in his knee during the Williams fight, which required surgery, and did not have a proper break not only for the body but the mind as well. His opponent will be against Kevin McBride. Due to the massive amount of money Tyson owes, the government, the bankruptcy court, took nearly all of his $5.5 million purse, only to leave him with $250,000, which quite a bit of that $250,000 will go towards his ex-wife and his creditors. I don't think anyone really, mentally, would be coming into this fight with the right mentality. Tyson tried, and he tried very hard to get in the zone and take McBride out, which he had clicked finally in the 4th round. Despite success in 5 and 6, Tyson would check out mentally towards the end of the 6th round, then get dropped by Danny in the final minute of the round. Tyson would retire from his corner coming to the 7th round to walk from the sport for good. After Jermaine Taylor hit his head very hard on the canvas in his 2009 bout against Arthur Abraham, mentally and physically Taylor was never the same. Accompanied by substance abuse, this furthered Taylor's psyche to where he is not only harming himself but his family members and others while pursuing a comeback in the sport, which many onlookers did not agree due to his mental state. In August 2014, Jermaine Taylor was arrested for crimes I can't say here, then to be released on a $25,000 bail to fight for the IBF title against Sam Solomon in October. Media was outraged due to the IBF honoring this vacant title grab. I'm pretty sure Al Heyman that made it happen, and DiBella felt like helping Taylor out, and hopefully this will keep him on the right path and stay out of trouble. But did not look too far in the future because Gennady Golovkin wanted to fight the winner of this fight. Peter Quillen, a Al Heyman fighter, was in the crowd, and the mandatory for the IBF title was Hassam Endam, who just came off defeating Curtis Stevens. Any of these guys pose a serious threat to the health of Taylor. the most unexpected events will take place. Sam Solomon got injured and fought with one leg for a majority of the fight to where Taylor was able to earn a decision, surprisingly not that wide on the scorecards despite Solomon going down in 7, 8, 9, and 11. And the notes it states that Taylor was given one involuntary title defense, which that was against Sergio Mora, and just before Taylor could even make that defense, Taylor was arrested due to a weapons discharge while being on probation for the previous offense from 2014. Taylor was later stripped of the title and will fall into a sad spiral, numerous assault-related incidents due to psychiatric problems. Back to the video in a short bit. Be sure to hit that like button to help the rest of the good old folks be able to view this video. What fight did you watch, boxing or MMA, where the fighter you were rooting for to win was an underdog that was giving the favorite a run for his money and secured the upset? Leave in the comments. After a KO defeat against Jose Luis Castillo in their rematch, Corrales' titles were not on the line as Castillo did not make weight. Corrales then would fight Yoel Casamayor, in which he would just come in short and lose by a split decision. Coming into 2007, he will then fight feared opponent, the massive Joshua Clottey, at a catchweight of 149. Now Corrales was a good featherweight, lightweight, and superb junior welterweight, but the thought of him fighting at junior middle doesn't sound good. It didn't sound good in 2006 and certainly did not in 2023. Looking at the fight day weight, there seemed to be no rehydration clause, as Corrales weighed in at 160 on fight day and Clottey at 170 pounds. Also, keep in mind that Showtime labeled this Corrales' welterweight debut, but both guys weighed in over the welterweight limit, therefore they are junior middleweights. Clottey would give Diego the most one-sided loss of his career since the Mayweather fight.
Two combination, beautiful again. Here's the score with uppercuts and hooks. Combination of that big one. Scheduled for 10. Beautiful combination upstairs and back and forth action. He's winning this set by Clottey. Clottey with a left hook, an uppercut, a right, a left, and he's all over Corrales. Body. What is holding Corrales up? He goes down.
Corrales would cut it close, finishing the fight on his feet to go 10 full rounds. I think despite this loss, Corrales had a bit left to give to the sport of boxing. This was just a bad style matchup and a weight class he had no business in. Unfortunate events will take place and the boxing world will lose Corrales exactly a month after the Clottey fight and a bike accident on Cinco de Mayo weekend. After getting knocked out in the first round by Ernie Shavers, Ken jumped right back in the ring 5 months later against Scott Lideau. Ken would barely scrape away with a draw in the scorecards. Norton being thumbed in the eye in the 8th round played a big role in how the fight would close out for him, as it impaired his vision.
That is not fight. At first the referee. No, the referee says no. The fight is not stopped. The referee says no.
Norton would retire shortly after this fight after the passing of his manager. He would come back out of retirement despite being dissatisfied with how his career ended. His opponent is the undefeated Randall Tex Cobb. Cobb, coming in, was ranked number 9 by the WBC. This will be a 10-round nail-biter for Norton. He was showing clear signs in the later stages of the fight. He would muscle up the will and even things up on the cards to where it all rested on the final round. Norton would take home the split decision victory.
Maybe fight Muhammad Ali. Norton's throwing everything in there. He's calling on the reserves. Norton is throwing everything in there. He's not saving anything for tomorrow. Norton kicks the heavyweight fight of the year.
Instead of riding off into the sunset with a huge win against an undefeated contender, Ken pressed his luck and decided to fight for it all against undefeated contender Jerry Cooney. The winner would more than likely face the champion Larry Holmes. Ken Norton was ranked number 10 by Ring Magazine, Cooney number 2. Cooney was also ranked number 1 by the WBC and WBA. Norton will get caught off guard by Cooney starting to fight fast and his power. This resulted in Cooney putting away Norton within the first minute of the fight in brutal fashion. Norton, following the loss, will retire from the sport. In 1965, a very well past his prime Sugar Ray Robinson was making one last title run, which would be for the history books. Robinson meeting up with the middleweight champion Dick Tiger, and he was willing to give Robinson a title shot if he got past the number 1 contender, 44-1 Joey Archer. By this point in Sugar's career, it was more about pride and chasing the ultimate prize of fighting and maybe becoming champ for one last time at the age of 45. It was no longer about the money, according to a Sports Illustrated article from that time period, that the IRS had returned $344,000 back to Robinson. The documentary from the 90s tells a different story. Trying his absolute hardest, Robinson fell short and lost wide on the scorecards to where Robinson will retire from boxing for good.
Robinson was lying on a table, and Miles leaned over and said, in that hoarse croak of a voice that Miles had, he said, "Ray, you're packing it in." And Robinson nodded. He says, "You're right." And that was the end of it.
This is the one segment where it ends on a positive note. Robinson will be given a proper send-off with thousands in attendance.
Seinem Publikum. Nochmal frisch gemacht, so sah er aus, nachdem aus der Kabine gekommen war und hatte alle Kampfspuren weggewischt. Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye, denkt an mich.
So this is a bit strange. The World Heavyweight title will go vacant in 1948. Joe Louis loses the NBA and lineal title against Ezra Charles in 1950. Lee Savold and Bruce Woodcock fight for the vacant World Heavyweight title. Joe Louis would beat the winner to regain the World Heavyweight title. Despite being the world champion, he does not hold the NBA or the lineal. The British Boxing Board recognized Joe Louis to be the champ, while Ezra Charles and now Jersey Joe Walcott is the NBA and lineal champion. Due to the out-of-the-ring distractions with the US government bullying the American hero into massive debt, Joe wasn't fully himself mentally, while physically he was out of his prime. A win here against undefeated star Rocky Marciano would set Louis up against Joe Walcott for the undisputed heavyweight title. Louis came in as a 6-5 betting favorite. Marciano slowly but surely moved in and tired out the old former champion. Marciano would stop Louis in the 8th round. A hard defeat for Louis, a hard win for Marciano, as he never thought of fighting one of his idols, as he cried in the locker room. Since this was a non-title fight, and since Louis lost, the British Boxing Board no longer recognized Louis as the champion. This will be Louis's final fight, and he will walk away from boxing. After Ali's historic win to regain the title against Leon Spinks, he was advised to retire from his doctor as his health seemed to be in a decline. Ali would retire and go on a humanitarian tour, visiting numerous nations.
Never before in the annals of diplomacy has there been a journey quite like that of Mr. Ambassador Muhammad Ali.
You learned a lot, so did we, and I'm very grateful for the results that you have taken. Good luck to you, and I look forward to getting a good report from you.
These are my fans, my people, because I put God first. The book says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, then all things shall come to you. Ain't this living proof? People running for miles. People running for miles just to see and meet the champion.
Unfortunately, Ali was bitten by the bug to come back into boxing and fight for the title. He announced that he will be fighting newly crowned WBA champ John Tate, who seemed to be perfectly tailored for Ali. All Tate had to do was get past his opponent, Mike Weaver. Tate comfortably ahead in the scorecards, and Weaver needing a knockout in the final round. Weaver would somehow come out victorious, stopping Tate in the 15th round to become the WBA champ. Weaver will make a claim that Tate's hometown fans is the reason why Tate lost. He said he made a mistake slugging when he was boxing before. With Ali's eyes still in the prize of becoming champion one last time, he decided to go after the WBC champion Larry Holmes. Ali came into camp not in the best shape. Those 2 years off was not good for his body. In a desperate attempt to shed the weight off, Ali was taking thyroid medication, which acted as a fat burner. The major downside to this was it completely saps her energy. Even worse side effects due to the fact Ali was not following the directions of taking once daily and took 2 pills daily.
Didn't sweat at all. The towel that I always carry on my shoulders to wipe the sweat off Ali, I used myself coming up and down the stairs, but Ali didn't sweat at all, and we didn't know why. Later on, we discovered he had been taking those pills, and they had dried him up. So as he kept fighting and not sweating, automatically lost all his ability to perform or even almost stand.
Ali on the outside looked fight ready, but in the inside he was far from it as that medication took over his body. Ali was shut out by Larry Holmes, which left those who watched incredibly saddened as Ali was taking a beating and the ref was refusing to put a stop to the contest. The fight was ultimately put to a stop in the 10th round. Despite many being worried of Ali's health, Ali went forward to fight one last time against heavyweight contender Trevor Berbick in the Bahamas. The fight was competitive early despite Ali showing clear signs he's well past his prime, showing no power in his shots and speed.
Berbick back a little bit. Ali, for the first time tonight, up on his toes. Got his jab and stay away. The crowd has come alive. Good jabs on the right.
The fight changed at the halfway point and Berbick began to put an unnecessary beating on Ali. This fight would go the distance, and due to what Ali did early, the cards was much closer than advertised. Ali would lose by unanimous decision and retire from boxing for good at the age of 39. And on top of that, this is when boxers go sad. For another installment, be sure to like, share, and if you're new, subscribe. Subscribe to the Patreon for Patreon-backed projects and early access. This project being on the tale of Floyd Mayweather versus Ricky Hatton. I'm Alpha Sancho, and I'm out.